For Honor is a game full of combat and excitement. It has epic battles, different characters, and a story to explain it all. How's it going, everybody? I hope that you guys are doing well. And I gotta tell you, there's nothing better than to run into battle with all the might and glory. And that is exactly what you do in For Honor. You'll fight enemies, raid fortresses, and your best friend will be the weapon that is in your hand. This is mine. I call it Barbara. And together with the thrill of the fight comes the satisfaction of winning. But is that all there is to it? Is there any other reason that you might try it? Well, you can decide for yourself after this list of 10 good and bad things in the game For Honor. Now my editor Nika will hide this image of a knight somewhere in the video 3 times. And you, at the end of the video, let me know in the comments if you find them all. For the Horde! Oh, it's a different game. A quick disclaimer, I will only talk about the single player experience and there will be spoilers. We will start with the 5 good things. Number 1. Combat mechanics. This is a hack and slash type of game, but unlike many other games of this type, this one has a very unique combat system. And no, not Ghost of Tsushima type of unique style. You have the ability to hold the sword in 4 directions, up, down, left and right, when each side determines where will your character attack or defense. If you press right, your character will hold their weapon to the right and attack or defend there, and so on. If your stance will be to the right and the enemy will attack from the left, then you'll get hit. So it's very important to time your movements and directions. You can also parry attacks by pressing the heavy attack button and only if you are in the same direction that the attack is coming from. You'll need to time your parry correctly in order for it to succeed. Other than that, you can also fight more freely if there are plenty of enemies around you instead of one, but it can be challenging if you have a strong opponent. Thanks to the fact that there are multiple types of character, the combat is not very repetitive and it's a lot of fun. Number 2. Executions. As part of the combat there is also the execution system, which is amazing. Sometimes in battle, after you defeat an enemy, you'll be able to execute them. 2 different execution types to be exact. You will have an indicator that will say that you can press one of 2 buttons. For a PlayStation controller it's either a square or a triangle. Each character has its own style of executions. And here the fun part, the execution type changes as the game progresses. Which means that the one that you'll be able to do at the beginning of the game will not be the same later on. And I found it extremely unique because it's very diverse, and it's almost like playing a new character altogether. The game itself is not repetitive in general. I really enjoyed watching the cutscenes of the executions. It was brutal. Number 3. Observations. In every level there are observation points. Every time that you will interact with these points, a narrator will start tell you a part of the lore. It's not a necessary thing for the game itself, but it's very informative and related to the story of the game. It's easy to miss these points, so that makes them somewhat of a collectible. It is very helpful in setting the mood for the game. Now what I found about it to be so good is how it makes the world of the game much more immersive. With it, the story feels less empty and much more intriguing. Players that love story-based games, just like me, should really try to look for those observation points. And with it not being a mandatory part of the game, it makes it shorter and much more fitting for those who don't want to dwell in the story. I think that it's a good balance and it somehow answers the player's desires. Number 4. Variety. There is a large variety of mechanics in the game. Many of them are very limited, but we will talk about that later. The game lets you play 3 factions: Knights, Vikings and Samurais. In each faction there's more than one character that you can play, and each character have a different weapon, and therefore different attacks. Together with that, there are also different executions. Not just that, there are also additional weapons such as fire arrows, bombs, traps and more. There are also different weapons that you can use, just like crossbows, but not a lot. The different varieties of things are very interesting. I really enjoy destroying houses with bombs, for example, or set things on fire with fire arrows. Overall, the different variety of things make the game much more interesting. Number 5. History Appreciation. Although not accurate, it does seem that the developers of this game have a lot of appreciation of history. Now I'm not talking about the inaccuracy in historical events, because the game does not try to tell you an historical story. Many of the things that I mentioned are more stigmatic rather than true. For example, a Viking yells that it's shaming to be a farmer, like it's not something that Vikings do. However, most Vikings were farmers in history. But wait, am I complaining? That's not the idea. The history appreciation comes in forms of characters' design, including known names or titles in history, such as Ragnar or talking about the daimyo's champion. These little details show that although they didn't try to make it historically correct, they did many other subtle things to show their appreciation, and I think that it's quite fun to experience. A quick stop for a second, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and if you watched it up until now, well, that's even better and I do appreciate it. Now I do enjoy making these videos for you, I do enjoy entertaining you, and that's why I need your help. I want to make more of these, and you can help me by pressing the like button, leaving a comment, and subscribe. Now let's continue with the list. The 5 bad things. Number 1. Collectibles. There are 2 main collectibles in the game, observations and breakables, which are big jars. There's a limited amount of collectibles in every level, and each level have different amount. For example, in the first level of the Knights, you will have 10 observations points and 4 breakables. In other levels, it will be different. Now, what exactly bad about it? Well, if you really want to know more about the story of the world, you will have to spend time and try to look for those observation points. But even worse, collecting the breakables is only beneficial if you also play the multiplayer mode, because collecting breakables gives you materials for upgrades and only in the multiplayer. So collecting this is more or less a waste of time if you only play the campaign. That is, unless you are really into the lore up until you allow yourself to spend many hours searching, and I don't believe that most people want to. Number 2. Can't pause in cutscenes. Although it was possible in some games when For Honor was released, it seems that it was not implemented in this game. And why that? I have no idea. The ability to pause during cutscenes should be mandatory in my opinion, no matter what was the year that the game came out. It's kind of frustrating when you are in the middle of an interesting scene and then your hot tea glass is falling down and you need to clean it and then you miss everything. But I digress. It shows a little care about the player and nothing else. It's quite okay in most scenes because they are short, but the most important scenes are the longer ones. So yeah, it's bad. Number 3. Very limited. As I stated earlier in this video, there's a big variety of different things. However, with as many different mechanics that it has, it is also limited. And here's an example. You have one part of horse riding and it's while you are chasing a Viking leader. And this mechanic is a lot of fun. However, there's only one time that it happened. And here's another example, and a bit less unique. There's a crossbow that you can use, and although that you can use it more than once, it's actually twice or 3 times, it's only really effective at one time. And that's because you are required to use it at that time. The other time that you are able to use the crossbow is when it's not required but also not very effective. There are more mechanics just like these that I stated, and that's the reason why I put it on this list. But in general perspective, they were fun to use, it's only a shame that you can't use it a lot. Number 4. Sounds. The sounds of the game are great in general, and the voice acting is very good as well. However, the sound adjustment is just full of mistakes, and there are a lot of parts that the sound doesn't work well. It mainly happened in cutscenes. There's a part where a battle is going on and you see the characters running and yelling, and you barely hear any noise aside from the background music. And you would have think that it's just the vibe of the moment. However, in another cutscene, where a few characters are talking, suddenly one of them sounds very far away, even though that is very close. This type of thing happening more often as the game progresses. It's not necessarily frustrating, but it's confusing and quite annoying. I mean, they could have easily spotted these issues before releasing the game, or even after for that matter, and fix it with a patch. But they didn't do so, so it's on this list. Number 5. Story. Let's talk about the story. Is it good? Yeah, it's not bad, but it's very shallow. At the end of the story there was a small part that tried to make things deep, but it was way too late for that. So it was very linear and it didn't really have much turn of events. So the game idea is clearly not to tell a story. However, I think that they could have added a bit more lines that could make the story much better. For example, while you're playing with a samurai, you are encountering more honorable and respectable moments, and I did enjoy it quite a lot. But the problem is that you are playing the samurais the last, while with the knights at the beginning you didn't really have this type of moment. What's more, the story is incomplete and there are a lot of questions that didn't have an answer, such as how did the first character that you play became the leader of the rebellion knights group. And that was the list. In conclusion, the game is exhilarating. Feeling like a knight, a viking or a samurai is a lot of fun. With this large variety in characters come also large variety of tools which you can use. However, together with that, you will have these tools for a limited time and you can't use them again up until you start the level from the beginning. The combat itself is very unique and full of interesting movements and executions. But the story without the observation points lore is quite dull and not very interesting. So considering it all, I will rate this game as an 8 out of 10. If you played this game, please let me know what do you think about it in the comment below. And if you didn't, let me know, do you want to play it now? And that's all for the video. Thank you so much for watching it up until now. Have a wonderful day, have a wonderful night, have a wonderful whatever. Leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and don't forget, enjoy your games.